Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to my shop. All right, and welcome. This is what is this? Second week of March. Right now it's probably in the 51, 52 degrees, but it's going to warm up and get real close to 80 today. We're probably going, we were in the 70s yesterday, and we may get to that. We should get in the 70s, no problem, by afternoon, and possibly even close to 80. And that's good because I need to go watch my grandson pitch tonight. So it'll be nice to be sitting in a, where it's not too cold anyway. So anyway, to get to the subject at hand, this is my 1949 Chevrolet truck with a 1954 235 engine, and that's been slightly modified. And one of the modifications I've done to this is I put in a Pertronix electronic distributor. Now, not just a module into the stock distributor, but the whole distributor is a Pertronix unit. And I also went with a high voltage, their Flamethrower coil. I believe I did this about 3, maybe 4 years ago. I'll list it up here somewhere. Okay, but I did a review at 5,000 miles. And I went and did a little research, and it looks like I haven't put but maybe 3,000 miles on this thing in a couple of years, which is unusual. But it's been sharing windshield time with the vet, so that explains that. So this is really about an 8,000 mile review. But it's been a good review. Now, Pertronix, when it comes to classic car owners and restorers and repair people, it's a love-hate kind of relationship. They either like it or they dislike it. Like I say, I've got, 8,000 miles, maybe 4 years on this now, and I've not had a peep of trouble, knock on wood. And so that's why I want to give a review, just give an option. There's a couple things you really want to pay attention to if you go to an electronic ignition in one of these old stove bolts, and a lot of it has to do with the voltage you put to it. So stay tuned, and we'll get down here and show it a little bit. All right, that's my 54 engine, 235, and there's the distributor, and right here is the coil. I've mounted the coil in the same stock location the original coil mounted. All right, I used the same original mounting bracket to bolt it in there. So that's really a direct bolt in as far as going with the coil. The distributor, there's a few things. I did a video on installing it, and I'll put a link across here somewhere. But I want to point out that you can see that it's got a late model type vacuum advance can to where the points actually advance inside the unit, as opposed to in the with these 216s, 235s, 261s, the entire distributor would turn. Well, it's all integral now, late model, and this is a Chevrolet type distributor cap and rotor button inside. I'm not sure about the actual distributor itself, if it's a Chevrolet that's been modified, but it does internally have the Pertronix flamethrower module in there. So I'll pull the cap off and show you real quick. All right, let's pull the cap off. If you worked on the old before the HEI distributors on Chevrolets, most GMs, you'll know that how these caps will come off. There's two clamping screws. All right, you lift it off, and there you can see the rotor button. That's a GM style rotor button. I'll pull him off and show you the module down there. Okay, he lifts off, and the module, is right on this side, I think. Let's see if we can see it down there. Yeah, I'll bring you down here and show you in a minute. But I've done, I did a modification to it, and let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. All right, bring you down. Okay, if you notice, these springs are copper. Okay, these are the lightest springs. There's a spring kit that comes with the distributor, and those are the lightest springs that the kit allows. That comes with the kit. It comes with the middle tension springs, silver, and then they have black springs, which are closer to the OEM. Now the OEM are the most taut springs. They what they do is that'll see, it gauges how much your flyweight's open and closed. Now with these copper springs, the flyweights will fling open sooner, a whole lot sooner and quicker than they would with the OEM. Now if you went to the black, it would step it up a little quicker. The silver, what comes on the distributor, it would step it up. And these coppers, they are the lightest springs. In other words, they allow the flyweights to fling out faster and at a lower RPM. And that, what that does is that it advances the mechanical advance quicker, which makes your engine a little bit more peppier. Okay. Now I played around. I've got a couple videos where I played around with these on the setting. And if you don't have a modified engine, probably staying with the silvers would be your best bet. But like I say, I've got a hotter cam in this. I've got dual carburetors, dual exhaust, so it's more conducive for performance than, say, a stock 235. Now, it's not going to set the world on fire because it is a stove bolt engine, but I've squeezed about as much performance as I can out of it. But anyway, and these braces right here are brackets, or these are actually limiters. What would happen is you want to limit your maximum amount of mechanical advance and vacuum. You don't want to get anywhere near 51 degrees before top dead center. And you want to stay between 45 to maybe 48, 49. And when you go to these copper springs, it's going to fling them out quicker and further. And it will it will cause your mechanical advance to be more, to give more advance. And then when you add in the vacuum, it put me over that threshold of where I didn't want to be. So these limiters are limiting the mechanical advance, so I don't get anywhere near that threshold. I have to look at my paperwork and I'll write it down across here somewhere. Thinking my maximum advance with vacuum and mechanical now is somewhere in the in the mid 40s, somewhere in there. Again, you don't want to be in the 50s. And if your engine is stock, I would stay with the silver springs. I wouldn't even mess around with these. I only messed around with these because, of course, my engine's modified. So anyway, we'll go ahead and put him back together. Oh, and just like in the old days, with points, this will only go back on one way. You've got let me keep them screws. You got a square stop and a round stop. Square. Here we go. You see, so it'll only go on one way. That's for those of you that are not old school and have not been around this stuff long enough to know. So anyway, now to answer a question I know will be asked is, was I having problems with my points? No, I wasn't. As a matter of fact, I was doing, my points were working fine. my point distributor. Of course, when I did this, what happened there? When I installed the engine, when I built the engine and installed it back in this truck, I upgraded the truck also to 12 volts. So, and your cap will only go on one way. It's got a notch to line up. You know, it's a standard like GM Chevrolet type distributor cap. So it's not foolproof, but it's not. You feel it? There we go. And he's locked down. He's good to go. Forgot what I was saying, but let's talk about the voltage real quick. I think a problem with these Pertronix distributors or the electronic ignitions is that the 12 volt feed to the units are not a good clean 12 volt. You may be running a coil that required a resistor, ignition resistor, and you've left that in, so you've got an incompatible resistor and coil feeding your distributor, or just the module itself, because a lot of people just put the module in, you keep the distributor. If that 12 volt is less than 12 volt, see that resistor, you know, the original ignition on these engines were 6 volt. So the coil is 6 volt. The points and condenser and the distributor are designed for 6 volts. So when you modify your truck electronics or car, depending upon if it's a car or truck, if you modify your stove bolt car or truck's electronics to 12 volt, well, you need to put a resistor in, or a coil that has an internal resistor, because you want to still knock that voltage down to 6 volts if you're running your points and condenser. All right. Now, when you go to the Pertronix unit or any aftermarket HEI type ignition, you first off, you want a true 12 volt coil, all right, and then you want to remove that resistor. You want a full 12 volts feeding to the positive side of the coil, okay? Now, you don't want anything branched off that circuit. You don't want it feeding a radio or your electric choke coils or any other device, or tack. You don't want that voltage feeding anything else. You just want it straight to the coil. The cleaner the voltage is to the unit, the better it's going to work, okay? Now, some people will run all the way back to the battery, and that's not a bad way to do it, but I didn't do that. I've got a battery feed. Of course, I've done, you know, extensive modifications to my truck, but over there you see my electrics. I've got a 12 volt battery feed to that, and that's what feeds down to my ignition switch. And my ignition switch, now I've got a parallel down at the switch. I've got a feed that comes down to my coil, and then another feed off the switch that feeds my my radio, and also puts 12 volts up here at my block for the choke coils. But they're not paralleled down, they're paralleled at the source, not down the road they're not paralleled where they'll drop voltage here, okay, at the coil. Anyway, if that makes any sense to you. I guess what I'm trying to say is you want a clean 12 volts to your ignition system, and it'll last better. All right, let's start this dude up. I haven't started it, and I always say this on it. It's been a week, so I may have to crank it over a little bit to get gas into the car. I'll tell you what, we'll just try to start it standard way because it hasn't been that cold. It will go from there. So I'm going to give it 3 pumps. All right, we're in neutral. Ignition on. Let's see what happens. It'll kick down. All right. This isn't a working cruise. This is just a joyful cruise. Be right back. All right. Pulled my sweater off already. I don't know what the temperature is, but it's definitely warmed up. Here and running with modern traffic. All right. Well, how y'all doing? I hope y'all doing good. You know, spring breaking coming. I'm ready for it. I thought I slammed that door. Wonder if something's blocking it from closing. I'll tell you, I bought an aftermarket door latch for this, and it worked so poorly that I scrubbed and cleaned up the OEM, and the safety latch on the bottom, I kind of ground the sharp tip off of it so it wouldn't continue to dig into the latch housing, and it works 10 times better than that aftermarket, but it does not work as good as it did when I first got it. Now I put, since I've had this truck, I put what, 34,000 miles on it. That's with the 216 and the 235. And well, you know, stuff that was already old and wore will definitely wear more. So, but I'm not happy with that aftermarket latch. Oh, it was terrible. Kind of hit or miss. Now, let me see. Well, since this is kind of a cruising review of that Pertronix, all right, we'll talk a little bit more about it. Now, I haven't put this on a dynamometer. I haven't done that. Everything that I've noticed and claimed is seat of the pants. So you can, you know. And since I'm pretty much giving you this information for free, that's what it's worth. So, I think she's still a little cold. hesitates a little bit coming out of turns like that, but the next turn, it should be about the time I hit this next turn, it should be warmed up. But anyway, so let's talk about we'll talk about the ignition on these stove boats. Now, the old point style ignition system is great. There's nothing wrong with it. Reliable. I carried a spare set of points, a spare condenser, and a spare rotor button in my toolbox, my travel box, because, you know, well, number one, we're dealing with aftermarket parts, okay? So, as opposed to the OEMs that lasted forever, you don't know how long these will last. But generally, and now I've heard of some people complain about their condensers breaking down and causing misses and so forth. Ahead of the traffic. I got a lean going on there, don't we? I don't think it's too bad. About the distributor or the ignition, okay. The 6 volt, I had no problem in winter driving this truck with 6 volts. It started, ran, I mean, it did great. Matter of fact, with the 216, with the old 1 barrel and single exhaust setup, it actually may have ran better cold than this setup does, because of the way they engineered the preheat for the intake. So that's why it takes a little longer for this setup to warm up, because it doesn't have that hot exhaust gas circulation around the intake manifold to warm it up. But that's a whole nother story. But the 6 volt, I guess what I'm saying is there's nothing wrong with it. And I would have stayed 6 volt still had I not put another engine in this. If I was just, you know, when I was running the 216, I just wanted to stay as close to stock as possible and run it that way. I wanted it to where if I let you drive this truck, start it, drive it, operate it, that it would operate exactly like it did in 1949. Well, a little better because the gas is better, but still. Well, now that I've got a modified engine in it, I decided, well, I'm going to go to 12 volt. And, well, I will allow that going to a full 12 volt on this truck is an improvement. Again, ain't nothing wrong with 6 volt, but 12 volt upgrade is an improvement, especially in starting. It just spins the engine, that 12 volt hitting that 6 volt starter, and yes, that's still the same 6 volt starter. Won't burn it up as long as you don't ride it too long, but it spins it a whole lot faster, which makes the engine start better, faster. A well-tuned 6 volt 216 or 235 or 261 will start right up too, well-tuned and well-operated. The main problem with something that sits a lot and not started and ran is that the fuel in the carburetor will evaporate. Alright? So what you have to do is you got to get fuel in that carburetor in order for the engine to start. And a lot of people, they'll just, you know, pump, crank and pump, crank and pump. And to me, that's That's not the way I do it. If I know I've sat for over a week, that my, no hesitation, it's just pulling up. Oh, it's warm. But if I've sat for over a week, I'm positive that enough fuel is evaporated out of my twin carburetors that it's not going to start. So, as you saw at the beginning of this video, it was about a week since I've started this and ran it. And you see it took 3 cranks to get it to catch and continue to run. Now, what I'd normally do if it's over a week is I will not turn the ignition on, and I won't set the chokes on the automatic chokes on the carburetors either. I'll just turn the motor over, I don't know, 10, 15 seconds, and while it's doing, the motor's turning, it's pumping fuel up into the carburetors, and I'll have to do that maybe 2 times. All right. Once I've done that, now I'll set the automatic chokes by pumping the throttle, and 1, 2, maybe 3 times. Turn the ignition switch on, and most times it'll start. This time I didn't even prime the carbs, and you seen it tried starting twice before the 3rd time it ran. So, but one thing about these automatic chokes on these carburetors, I am thinking very seriously of going to back to manual choking. And there's manual choke kits that I can probably adapt to them and utilize my old choke cable. The reason why I would do that is because I think that it takes too long to be able to kick it down. You know, after these engines start and they've run for, I don't know, 20, 30 seconds, they can idle a lot slower than what these automatic chokes are keeping it at. Now, I could adjust the there is an adjustment on the carburetors for the fast idle RPM. I could adjust them if I so desired, but on the very cold days, you need that. It's when it's not as cold that it still seems to take those chokes longer than I like to get the chokes open so I can kick it down. Basically, I'm just wanting more control. Back to the point, it's supposed to be about the Pertronix. Yeah, all right. I think I touched on a key to proper operation and perhaps longevity of the Pertronix unit is a good, clean 12 volts, right? You don't want nothing branched off that circuit. You want that circuit all the way from the ignition switch to the coil with a clean, good 12 volt. Nothing else loading it down, all right? That's one. You know, getting the settings right is also important. I must not have had my hood latched good. That's a bummer. Popped it up. But the voltage to it is a big key. Now, you know, I was talking about my points distributor. I do have my points distributor and its coil underneath this seat. I do carry it with me, all right? And if I had just kept the old distributor and a lot of bumps, if I had just kept the old distributor and put a ignition Pertronix in that distributor, I would have kept the points and condenser and coil, because you really should change the coil out to their recommended high voltage coil to go with it. I would say that would be necessary. Now, talking about the ignition, you can't run them solid core spark plug wires with this setup either. You can't on any HEI. You need spark plug wires designed for HEI, because you're producing more voltage out, okay? And that could cause intermittent problems, could burn it open. You just want HEI type spark plug wires. And I guess I could put info on the ones I got, because they fit perfect. I did some research on getting the correct cables, and they fit perfect, and they are, you know, HEI adaptable. Well, they are HEI cables. There's no adaptable to them. They are. Anyway, I normally don't have this much traffic on this back road here. You got a lot of traffic. People are out and about on Fridays. Well, this Friday, that's a low-end grunt. I was under 30 mile an hour. I didn't even throw it up in second. I just let it pull in third. Now, the cam I put in this engine, it allows the engine to produce power at a higher RPM. In other words, the red line is moved up probably at least 500 RPM, if not more. And I can run this thing comfortably up to 4,000 RPM, and it does good. But I really don't like spinning it that fast, because the whole drivetrain's still stock OEM 49. Okay. But engine-wise, 4,000 RPM, it does it great. I've taken it up to 42, and where I buried my speedometer at 80. So I don't know how fast I was going, but it was over 80, and it'll do it. But by having a cam that gives you that higher end, it makes the lower end suffer. Okay. In other words, I lose some torque at the low end. Now, one thing about these engines, those stove bolts, they're sort of like a diesel engine. They make their power at lower RPM. Well, I've moved this up, the power band higher with that cam. And since I did that, in order to take advantage of that additional power I got, I wanted it to apply quicker. So that's why I went away from the single carburetor. I went to duals, and I also decided to mess with the springs in the distributor. My hood popped. I'm gonna pop it down. I love the hike here. Let's change the scene a little bit. All right. we'll go down the road a little bit. See if I can tighten that up. Thought I could. All right. Might bounce some. Another big bump coming up. He definitely will pop the hood. Well, anyway, so we're talking about the Pertronix. So I went with those copper springs. And that just allows the flyweights that control the mechanical advance in the distributor. It allows them to spread out sooner. In other words, at a lower RPM, I'm getting mechanical advance than stock, and to actually even go further. So much so that I had to put limiters on it in order to keep the advance down some. A hill. I don't know if you can tell. But that's all because of performance. And like I stated earlier, you probably would want to go with, stay with the silver springs that come in the distributor if you were to go with the distributor. It is a direct drop in, and the only problem I had with getting it set up is it came with an additional O-ring down on the shaft. I think I'll link a little, either a video where I discovered it or a picture showing. But it wouldn't allow the distributor to drop all the way in and engage the oil pump, because you've got to make sure you engage the oil pump also. Because that's what the distributor, the cam spins the distributor, and the distributor spins the oil pump. Okay? So, very important that tang of the distributor fits inside the slots on the oil pump. Alright. So, it wouldn't allow it to drop all the way in until I removed that O-ring. And the O-rings put there because I guess they were afraid that it may some pressure oil may come up and leak out around the distributor. Well, at 8,000 miles, I haven't had any leaks around the distributor. Okay, so it's not necessary. It's not needed to prevent oil from coming out of the distributor hole. Okay, so that was the only problem I had, and I got it installed and set up, fired right up, and then I had to proceed to find my sweet spot. Now, this 235 engine, 54, the OEM timing setting for it is 2 degrees after top dead center. There's very few engines that'll be set up for their initial idle timing at after top dead center, but that's how this engine is. If you look at the BB, that's the timing indicator on the flywheel, and it's 2 degrees after the top dead center line. So, pretty unusual. Now, I guess that was needed back in the day because of the cheap fuel and everything else back. So, well, here, look at here. See that? I hope that's getting it. And that's a nice looking old, that's a 30-something, isn't it? Hey, what? Out on a beautiful day like today. since I did play around with the springs too, I had to find my happy medium. Now, that's a whole nother story. I don't know if I should open that can or not, how I found the timing. Maybe I'll do something on that. But it all boils down to, you want to set your maximum mechanical advance. In other words, you want to set mechanical advance in your distributor. It'd be nice to have a distributor machine, but most of us don't have that. And you know, distributors are a thing of the past anyway. So, you know, maybe you can find one. If somebody had one for sale cheap, I would definitely like to take it off your hands. But I had to use my engine as my test bed. Anyway, what you want to do, your maximum mechanical advance, you want to set it to around no more than 36 degrees before top dead center. Okay? I think I've got this one at 34. I have to look at my paperwork, but I'm thinking pretty much it's 34. But some will go V8s, like my small block Chevy. I take it to 36. But all right, so let's say in this case 34 degrees before top dead center, maximum. In other words, no matter how much more RPM you give that engine, it will not advance no more than 34 degrees before top dead center, okay? Now, you need an adjustable timing light to be able to do this. You can't do it with a standard. Well, I guess you could, but it'd be hard to do. You'd have to make sure you're, well, no, on this particular engine you can. I mean, you'd have to get to your flywheel and mark the marks. So, best thing to do is get a adjustable timing light where you can adjust the amount of advance that you want. All right. So you set it to 34, and then you let all the other numbers fall where they will, unless. Now, of course, when you set your mechanical advance, maximum mechanical advance, you do not have your vacuum connected to the distributor. You have it disconnected and plugged, okay? So, once you plug your vacuum back up and you run up to that same RPM that you got your, which is probably around 3,000 RPM, 2,500 to 3,000, somewhere around in there, and see what your maximum mechanical and vacuum advance is, because your vacuum is going to add at least 10 more degrees, okay? Sometimes more, but at least 10. And you do not want to exceed 51 degrees before top dead center, all right? You do not, okay? Because that can cause some serious engine problems. And if it's underneath 51, well, you're good to go. Well, in my case, where I was, my advance was too high. It was too close to that 51. So I put those limiters on the mechanical advance in order to limit the amount of advance to keep it under 51. And I want to think I was probably, again, I'll have to look at my paperwork, but I'm thinking I was more like 45, maybe somewhere around in there. There's some bumps. Bumps. Anyway. Well, there's my shot of the vitals. What am I? 45? Yeah. About 2,000 RPM. Okay. Thing about holding the phone is it's more awkward than my other small camera. I guess I'm gonna have to try to think about a GoPro or something. door is from all the bumping and carrying on. Yeah, I'm hearing something rattle. Be right back. Let's see. So, how was my review? Like I say, 8,000 miles. What, 4 years? 3 years? 4 years? Not an inkling of trouble. Easy starts. No misses. No miss, no grip. No problems so far. Knock on wood. And I do carry my old stock distributor and coil just in case. Now my coil's got it's not a stock coil, it's an aftermarket coil I bought that had a resistor built in. So but remember, if you're running points and condenser and your stove bolt, they were designed for 6 volts. So you'll need to have either an external resistor or a coil with a resistor if you're going to utilize that. And I would have stayed with it had I not decided to try this Pertronix. Pertronix was wanting to get into the provide a product for this era of engine and truck and car. And they approached me. I said, sure, I'll give it a shot. Give it a try. And well, it's worked out good for me. Now, I know a lot of people from my past videos asked about the part numbers and everything, and I'll provide that. And but I don't know how many have gone to this setup. One thing I like about this setup is a whole new distributor. I did my distributor, my original distributor was okay, but it was in pretty bad shape as far as rust and everything. So I traded and got another one. That was an aftermarket point type distributor, and it wobbled real bad. It didn't seem to miss or anything, but man, it wobbled. It had a bad wobble to it. And that's one thing that you'll run into when you're dealing with these older distributors and parts, that these parts, rebuild kits and so forth. Now people can ream out, they can get bushings and ream out, and that's what they need is rebushed. But if the shaft gets warped in any way, well, you're not going to get another shaft unless you find another distributor that's in good shape. Anyway, I guess what I'm trying to say is this is a whole new distributor with modern parts in it. Now, I guess the question begs to be asked, can points and the condenser be modified to go back in it? I may cross that bridge one day. I don't know. We'll just see. But at this point, I'm pretty happy with it. It works great for me. Again, it's kind of a love-hate with classic car buffs. Either you like it or not. I didn't mind setting points. That's how I cut my teeth in automotive. In the automotive realm with setting points. So, anyway. Oh, and one other thing. I gapped my plugs to 45 thousandths. That is a difference from 35. That's how much hotter that spark is.